acting with me, and I want to ask them a few questions so we can make a tape. First of all, Sheryl, how old are you now?
I'm 9 years old, coming on 9.5.
Brian, you tell us how old you are and what grade you were in and what grade you'll be in this coming year. Would you please?
Okay, I'm 13. Last year I was in the 7th grade, and this year I'll be in the 8th grade.
All right, I want you to think of something real interesting that you did this summer and that you would like to have us know about on a tape. Anything interesting you can think of.
Okay, this summer I'm still working on it. My mother kept saying about all the neat things that I made with Legos, and so she's going to write a letter to Lego Systems Inc. and ask them if they want any of my ideas. So I've been working on several projects.
Can you tell us, Brian, in just a few words, some of the things you did make out of Legos?
Well, I made a spaceship, a rocket launcher, a giant bird, and a thing that I call a Martian walker.
I'd like to know, just for my own information, what's a Martian walker?
Well, it's made out of Legos, and it has legs, and it walks.
Is it got different colors in it?
Yes.
Can you give me any idea how many pieces of Legos you possibly might have used in this?
Oh, I'd say probably, this was one of my smaller projects, probably about 20.
Okay, now I'd like to ask you, Sheryl, if you've done anything interesting this summer.
Well, this summer, close to when school is out, before school, my mom signed me up into this house of miniatures, doll furniture thing. So I got my first thing for only $1, and I built it. It's a grandfather clock, and it stands 7 inches high.
Oh, that sounds like a real wonderful project. Are you interested in doing anything more like that?
Yes.
I'd like to ask you if you went on any interesting trips this summer, Brian.
Yeah, we went to Six Flags and stayed for, I think, 13 hours.
You were 13 hours at Six Flags?
Yeah, it was fun. I rode most of the rides that they had there.
Can you tell me who went along?
Yeah, me, Sheryl, Shelley, my dad, and Uncle Cornell.
And did your dad and Uncle Cornell ride any of the rides, and can you remember anything funny that happened at Six Flags?
Okay, Uncle Cornell was riding the roller coaster called the Shockwave, and when he went on the loop, his glasses fell off.
That could have been a disaster. They didn't fall completely off, did they?
They fell into his lap.
Oh, I see. Well, do you have anything else interesting you want to say? Okay, Brian, now could you tell me if there was any other interesting thing that happened there at Six Flags?
Yeah, me and my father were riding the Shockwave, and it starts out slow, and so we were going on the slow part, and all of a sudden two girls started screaming, just almost blood-curdling scream on the entire ride, and even when we got off. It gave Father a headache.
Oh, they probably were scared, weren't they? Were they young girls your age, or what kind of girls?
I think they were older than me.
Well, you didn't scream, did you, Brian?
No.
Well, I'd like to know if you ever went to Whitewater.
Yeah, we did go to Whitewater once. It was a couple of weeks ago. And around on the left side, there is these slides that when you go down, they curves up so you land on your back. I was getting ready to go down there, and I changed my mind completely, so I ran down. And so my stepdad told me to wait at the go over by Mama, and I didn't know what he meant. So I swam across, and I wasn't supposed to do that. So I got in a little trouble, and I couldn't go back in the water for a while.
Oh, well, we all get in trouble, don't we, sometime, and then we have to pay the penalty. I want to ask you now, you've been here this morning, Brian, and you've been out there mowing the lawn, and tell me what you felt like after you mowed the whole backyard in front.
Oh, well, a little tired.
I appreciate it, though, Brian, and I know that you're a good worker, and Sheryl also helped here washing dishes, and we tried out a new recipe today. Can you tell them what it was, Sheryl?
Yeah, Grandma was watching TV the other day, and she got the recipe for Kentucky Fried Chicken, so she made it today, but it didn't taste just like the Colonel's. It tasted real close.
Tasted real close, but not exactly like it. Okay, I'd like to ask you now, Brian, what are your plans for your future life? Do you have anything that you would like to do with your life that you can think of in the way of an education? Do you feel like that you want a college education, or have you got an interest in science or economics or TV, or what are you interested in?
Well, I'm interested in science a lot and computers. One of the particular areas.
Yeah, no, you really like that sort of thing, and you know, there's a lot of possibilities, and I know you're planning to do all you can to learn, even now, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to ask now, when you were over at Cornell and Betty's, and you were at Aunt Betty's, do you remember anything funny that little Sheila did, Sheryl?
Well, me and Shelly was kind of early in about 8 o'clock, and we went downstairs with our Barbies to play. Little Sheila came down. She was real sweet. She came and sat on Shelly's lap and kissed her. And then she saw the Barbie dolls, and she goes, "Hey!" And she tried to grab him, so we had to put her down and give her to Aunt Betty so she could get fed.
She's a real sweetie pie, I think, and she was here just last week with her daddy. Well, he went to Pepsi-Cola, and I really enjoyed having her. She's a precious little girl, but I missed Shelly, and I miss her when she doesn't come, don't you?
Sure wish she'd come down here and see me for once.
And I'd like to ask you now what your school is like, Brian. How many classes you had this last year, and how many teachers, and did you go to more than one school?
Well, I only went to one school, but that school had 6 classes and one short period called homeroom.
Okay, also I'd like to ask, do you still eat lunches at the school, or do you take a sack lunch, or how do they do in that school?
Well, you can take your lunch or you can eat there. It doesn't, it's your choice. I usually eat there. Okay,
I know that times changing and you're going to be going to a different school, so we just hope that, that you'll have as good a school as you have been going to. Now I'd like to ask you, Sheryl, how tall are you and how much do you weigh?
Well, I don't know approximately how tall I am, but I do know how much I weigh. I weigh around 89 or 88.
Do you know, and how old are you?
9, going on 9.5.
Okay, and can you tell me just a little bit about what happened on your birthday, how your dad celebrated your birthday?
Well, we went to this place called the Comet Skating Ring, and me and my friends were skating along, and she told me that every time she came around, she'd pass my big brother. I said, well, that's a change.
What? You mean Brian was celebrating with you?
Yeah, and so was Greg.
Oh, yeah. Well, and Brian, how much do you weigh, and how old are you, and how tall are you, if you know all the facts?
Okay, well, I'm 13, and I weigh about 110, maybe 115, and I'm about probably about 5'1", 5'2", something like that.
Well, you are all both nice, big children, and I know that you're very healthy and everything, and that you feel well. I want to know now if you've ever been to the planetarium and what you think about it, and what was the most interesting thing to you. I was at the planetarium not long ago, and saw the movie and all the things that are inside the building at the Omniplex. And I'd like to ask you, Brian, what you liked there, if you wouldn't mind saying.
Well, the thing that really interested me was the planetarium show, where it had this projector type thing that projected stars and planets and stuff onto the ceiling, and the ceiling was round. And then they'd tell you, like the one I saw was the way the world might end.
And it was very interesting, just like you were right in the middle of it. I remember, I saw that too.
Yeah. It had sound effects and everything.
Okay, Sheryl, did you go also to the planetarium? Do you remember anything that impressed you?
Well, yeah, in the back of it, there was this little park, and it had this little, like, tall, round, and skinny tube. And you'd sit in it, and it's like a little playground, and you sit in it, and you'd lean back, and you'd go backwards real slowly, and forwards, and backwards, and forwards for a while.
Was it a kind of a sensation like being in space?
It was like going up on a roller coaster.
Oh, I think I saw that was toward the back part of the Omniplex, wasn't it? Brian, you look like you want to talk about something else that interested you, and I don't have any idea what it is, so it's all yours.
Well, I saw this exhibit in which there's a bowl, a metal bowl, and it had magnets all on the underside of it. But, well, there was a bowl, and then there was magnets underneath it. And when you pushed the button, the magnets made the bowl float in the air.
I saw that, too. It was like levitation, wasn't it? I think it was one of the exhibits there. I saw so many, I couldn't remember them all. This past spring, I believe it was, Sheryl was saved here in my house. Do you remember that, Sheryl?
Well, do you mean baptized or saved?
Yes.
Baptized? Well, I don't remember what date it was. I know it was on a Sunday. I don't know what date it was, but I remember when I was changing that when I started getting shivers because the floor was cold. So when I got into the water, my teeth started chattering. Man, and then you had to stand on a log. So when I held onto his arm and he held my nose, I almost slipped right off the log.
You did, yeah. Your daddy and Alba and Greg and Brian and I were all there. I remember that. And what does being saved mean, Sheryl?
Means when you believe in the Lord.
And what does he do for you?
He comes into your heart.
That's right. Do you remember when you were saved, Brian? You don't remember exactly when it was, but what does it mean to you?
Well, it means that you trust in Jesus to take away your sins.
That's right, and that's one of the most wonderful experiences you ever will have in your life, isn't it? And I'm glad that it even happened here, and that I could see you both be baptized. Brian, I know that you must have an interest in an automobile, and I want to know what kind of automobile you'd like to have and how you planning to get it.
Well, I'd like to get a car. It's foreign, called Ferrari, and the serial type number is 308 GTS.
What does that serial number mean?
Well, it doesn't particularly mean anything. It just stands for what type of Ferrari it is.
Is that car that you says costs so many $1,000s?
Yes, I believe it's 38,000, 40,000, something like that.
Wouldn't you rather have a house?
Yeah, I'd like to have a house too.
Okay, Sheryl, are you at all interested in having a car someday, or do you want a horse?
Well, we're going to be living out in the country, and that's kind of hard. Well, I guess I'm probably going to stay living out there for a while. I probably would want a horse.
Well, a horse is a lot cheaper than $38,000 unless you get a racehorse, isn't it? And a Ferrari is a racehorse, isn't it?
Even a racehorse is less than a Ferrari.
Oh, it is. Not a good, real good racehorse might not be. But I wanted to ask you maybe some other question. Do you have any idea, Brian, do you remember, I was going to ask you if you remembered anything that I read to you from this big book, you know, from the Bill Gothard's that I bought. Do you remember what? The incident with Jonathan where he was in the woods and he wasn't supposed to eat honey, do you remember what happened? His father told him not, King Saul told him not to eat honey. You remember that incident?
Well, yes, he had been working and he was walking home and he got hungry. So he dipped his cane into a honeycomb and ate the honey off of it.
And he was forbidden by his own father to do that, and so he got into trouble, didn't he?
Yeah.
Do you remember what happened to his eyes when he ate that honey?
They lit up because it gave him energy.
You know, that's a symbol, isn't it, of what, when you read the Word of God, that your eyes are opened and they light up and get light and you get the light. It really is a symbol of that. I know that your dad is at work right now, and we've started to play a game here once in a while, and we've already got the stakes set up. And what's that game?
Croquet.
Yeah, and it's a little bit hot right now to play it, but Brian, I guess you want to tell about how your dad does you in the croquet game.
Well, usually my father finishes first, and there's a way that if you go through the last 2 wickets but don't hit the stick, you become what they call poison, and you can roll around and hit people off the course. And all you have to do is hit the stick to win. So you wait for other people to come around and you knock them around the field, and that's what my father does. He usually sends me onto the cement or something where I have to reach down to hit it.
It takes a long time to finish a game when you're playing with your dad, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It really does. And this has been a very unusual summer. And the last time, Brian and Sheryl, that you were here, we had a real flood. Do you remember? And Sheryl, tell a little bit what happened, how high the water got here.
Well, there was kids about 5 foot tall, and the water was almost up to their waist. Well, it got real close to the house. There's little 3 steps up there, and there's little blocks of cement. Well, it got real close to the cement.
There were lots of places flooded out, but ours was not. And as we were watching, there were some kids even that were swimming out in the street. How did this flood impress you, Brian?
Well, I thought it was interesting because that it almost flooded this one car. It got up to the window sills, and figured that car's probably in real trouble.
Well, I think that they fixed that car up. You're talking about the Cooks across the street here. They had a car out in the street, and it did get up higher than the bottom of the windows of the car, and it flooded it all out. But they didn't try to start it, so they were able to not have to overhaul that car, and I think he is using it again. Okay, you want to talk a little bit about Uncle Cornell's Intellivision Atari, Sheryl?
Well, I haven't played it yet. It's just been the men. I've seen it though. They have this little thing that says 1, 2, and it has little like passes and kicks and throws, and it's some can be football, baseball, I think, and something else.
I think he sold some of his Atari, didn't he, Brian?
Well, to clear things up, he had an Atari, and he sold that and bought an Intellivision. And what Sheryl's talking about is a control type thing, where it has, 1 through 10, and a little maneuverable type control.
Did you get to play it at all?
Yes.
How did you like it, and what games did you play on it?
Well, I played football, Las Vegas, and Space Battle.
Sounds like an interesting combination, all right. Did they have racing?
No, they haven't. Uncle Cornell hasn't had a chance to buy very many of the cartridges.
Oh, I see. And it's just hooked up to the TV just like the other one then.
Yeah, but he's had it hooked up for a long time, and he says it still hasn't messed up the TV in any way.
Well, that's what the Atari does, is kind of mess the TV up. Also, I wanted to ask you, where did we go last night, Sheryl, and how did you enjoy it?
Well, we went over to Grandma's friend's house and have watermelon. Well, we went out on the back porch to have it, and Kelly told me about these little kittens that were there. So we went over to the house and we saw some climb out. They were only about 6-7 inches long, and their heads were about as small as half your
half your hand?
Yeah.
Okay, and you also played a game, 2 games really, while you were there. You played one when you got through playing with the kittens. What was the game you played?
We played Big Loader.
Yeah, that was Jason's game, wasn't it? Yeah. And then you played a game just before we came home.
Oh, yeah, we played Mexican dominoes.
All right, and Brian, John gave you something, and I still don't understand what that is.
Well, what it is it's a kit to make electronic projects, and has electronic parts, and you can hook them up in certain ways and make different kinds of things.
Well, I know. Do you think that it can be fixed to where you can use it?
Well, I could use it right now, but I can put the parts that are missing back in. I can put them back in.
Well, anyway, we stayed there. It was about midnight when we came home, and I was wore out. Then we had to get up quite early this morning, and your dad's going to come, I imagine, in a little while. Don't you think so?
Yeah, he'll probably be here any time now.
Now, the state fair is coming up. Have you all got any plans to go to the state fair?
Well, we don't know when we're going, but I think Mom said yes, we were going to go.
Are you? Right now, I'd like to ask you, Brian, what are your favorite foods, and when you go out to a restaurant, what do you order?
I like pizza a whole lot, and Mexican food, and hamburgers are okay, and I especially like foot-long chili dogs.
Oh boy, footlongs. Some of those footlongs are longer than a foot even, I believe. I know I had one not long ago. It looked like it's a foot and a half long. What is your favorite food, Sheryl?
Well, my favorite is Taco Bueno and Taco Bell.
Yeah, you like Mexican food then?
Well, usually only tacos.
I like tacos too. I made some not long ago. They were pretty good, weren't they?
Yeah, I had a couple of them.
Yeah, I know you all go to the library some and do other things. Is there anything else that's interesting that you like to do that you haven't got a chance to tell us about? You both act like there isn't anything interesting, so we won't pursue that one, will we? Well, when you come here, we play a lot of Uno, don't we? And we've also got a game called Smog, and I wish Brian, I wish you'd tell what Smog is like. It's the craziest game, isn't it? Can you explain it?
Yeah, well, what the deal is that you're in charge of a section of this town, and you have to go through all these corporate decisions and government decisions and everything, and the object of the game is to eliminate your pollution and keep the people happy.
It's really an educational game, isn't it? And that's why we play it once in a while. A lot of the time we just get it set up, though, and then we get tired. It takes them almost a half hour or more to set it up and get ready for it, doesn't it? So for that reason, we didn't play it. But we played today half a game of Scrabble. We got interested in this tape, didn't we? So we just quit the Scrabble game, but we also got interested in the memory tapes, did we not? So right now, I think there's some tape left. I'd like for Brian to tell how he remembers the 13 colonies and how they came in order to join the Union, the Federation of States.
Okay, first of all, there's Delaware, which I remember by thinking of a delicate piece of chinaware. Then there's Pennsylvania, which I think of a pin sticking into the china. And then there's New Jersey, which I remember because of a New Jersey cow sitting on the giant pin. And then Georgia, and I remember that because King George is riding the cow. Then there's Connecticut, which I remember because he's got a cut on his face, and the Band-Aid is connecting the sides of the cut. Then there's Massachusetts, which I remember because there's a block of ice on King George's head. And then there's Maryland, which is because I remember Marilyn Maxwell is on the ice. And South Carolina, because she's holding a ocean liner in her lap and it's going south. And then there's New Hampshire, which I remember is that there's a ham in the smokestack. And then there's Virginia because the ham is wrapped up in the song sheet of Carry Me Back to Old Virginia. And then there's New York, which I remember because the Empire State Building is pushing the ham into the smokestack. And then there's North Carolina because there's a weather vane on top of the Empire State Building shaped like an ocean liner and it's pointing north. And then there's Rhode Island, which is represented by a red Rhode Island hen who's just laid an egg on the deck of the ocean liner.
You remember the next one?
Yeah, Vermont.
Yes. Vermont syrup running over the whole thing. Okay, that's a marvelous way to remember. This tape is almost about to run out, and so Sheryl, how do you remember a name like, what was some of the names of people that we remembered?
The carbon machine or something like that. I remember it by saying carbon machine is watching her washing machine.
That's great. Anyway, we're not just having just a good time, we're learning also, are we not? Those memory tapes are real good, and they're your Uncle Cornell's tapes, and I have to get them back to him. There's another section on those tapes where you learn the 10 Commandments, and if you're here, tonight, we might learn the 10 Commandments in order, just like that, stacking up things to where we remember better, and I think those tapes are very interesting. All right, now Sheryl, will you say goodbye on the tape? I don't know who's going to hear this, but just say goodbye.
Goodbye.
See you later.
Peace.